are listening to the Balancing Act podcast. Here's your hosts, Jamie Wonko and Joe Vitale.
Recording.
All right. Hello and welcome back to the Balancing Act podcast. I am Jamie Wonko. I am here with Mr. Joseph Vitale.
Hello, Jamie. How are we doing?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I am great. For those of you watching on the YouTubes, I was just mentioning before we started recording how there is a glow about Ms. Jamie Wonko today. And she commented that, of course, it is the sun coming from her porch. So
it's true.
It is true. She's got a little glow going on today. So you got to check it out on the YouTube.
Or it's just my filter on my computer.
Or you could go through, maybe you have to do like your skincare routine where you take the bottles and you like tap on them with your nails. That freaks me out. I don't know why that freaks me out.
No, it freaks me out more when you see an 8-year-old doing it.
But, yeah. 8-year-olds don't need skincare routines.
Troublesome.
So we have a special guest today, and it's taken a while for us to connect, but I am super excited about this. We've referred to a clip of his on many an occasion. And I want to welcome, we're going to bring him right in. I want to welcome Mr. Dee Hankins to the Balancing Act podcast. And I cannot tell you how excited I am to have you here. And as I mentioned before, you are our furthest away guest because you are left coast, my man. That is very exciting. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
We have referred to your clips in our show multiple times. I'll say this much. If you are an educator and you do not follow Dee Hankins on Instagram or any of the socials, you should be. So we really are excited to have you here. We'd love to hear your story. Like, how does someone like you get into the avenue of motivational speaking and, getting into schools and talking to kids and teachers about life? I'd love to hear that story and where that comes from.
Yeah. So I actually grew up in foster care. That's one of the things that I talk about frequently. I grew up in foster care. I spent 18 years of my life bouncing around 12 different homes, 12 different foster homes, 2 different group homes. I grew up in South Central Los Angeles. I don't want to say the common story that you hear, but it's a very common story. Never met my dad before. Mom succumbed to drugs and, bounced around and things like that. So, I believe in, I'm a man of faith. I believe in the book, and I believe that we all have these talents, these gifts and these skills that we are naturally given. It's just given to us. And if you spend time educating yourself on your skill and developing your skill and focusing on your talent, everything that you want in life can grow from that. It took me a while to figure out what my talent was. It was actually the person that I call Dad now. His name is Richard Parkhouse. He was an educator for 30 odd years and took his knowledge and wisdom and started speaking in schools. And so I end up going to Long Beach State, and Long Beach closes during the winter and summer. And so I had no place to stay, really. So I talked to one of my good friends, Ricky, who's Richard's son. We went to school together. I'm like, man, can I stay at your house? For the winter, maybe the government can pay you guys. At least that's, the knowledge that I know. And Ricky's like, yeah. Let me ask my dad. So he goes home. He's like, hey, Dad, Dee wants to stay with us. The government will pay us, yada, yada. And he goes, his dad goes, wait. What are you talking about? What are you saying? What is all this? And so I told him my story. It's the first time he heard my story. And so he then is like, yeah, sure, you can stay with us. And I slept on the couch and things like that. Over the course of some weeks, he was just intrigued with this story of mine growing up in foster care. Because, I was a pretty good kid, I guess, for the most part. Like, there's some parts of my story where it wasn't, that was not the case. But for the most part, I was a pretty good kid. And I went to school to be a lawyer. I wanted to go to law because I felt
Really?
like Yeah, foster care. A kid grows up from South Central Los Angeles, goes to foster care, becomes this high power lawyer. Like, that's a story. That's a trophy story. And I don't know. Law is just boring. It's not what you see on Law and Order. Yeah, I took an internship for a law firm, and I was just like, dude, I can't do this.
What kind of law did you want to do originally? Do you
I
know?
wanted to do like entertainment law. Well, I wanted to do criminal law at first
Okay.
because that's what I watched growing up. Objection, Your Honor. That's what I wanted to do. But I was like, dude, that's like maybe 1% of their job. Most of it's
Mhm.
research and all that, case studies. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not me. So one day, my dad, Richard, he goes, dude, man, I've been thinking about this. And he says, if you take your talent for speaking, basically he was saying you run your mouth a lot, which is true. I have a gap, which is just running my mouth. And he says, man, if you can take that and mash it with your story, he says, I think you can do some good in this world. And I didn't know what speaking was, like, as a profession. You knew of the Tony Robbins and the Les Browns, but I felt like that was just those were anomalies and so on and so forth. And so I'm like, nah, I'm good. And I just kept pursuing this law thing. So one day he takes me, I trust this man with my life, right? And one day, this is like a Friday, I'm not working, or just some random day. And he's like, hey, I need you to come with me. So I'm like, all right, cool. So back then he had this black Yukon, Denali, or Suburban, one of the two, one of those long, those long trucks. And I don't ask him where we're going. He just goes, hop in. So we hop in. He has all gear in the back and things like that. And we're driving. I don't know if you've ever been to the West Coast, but there's the 10 freeway stretches for miles and miles and miles. Okay. So you can literally go from here all the way to like the East Coast, taking the 10 freeway. So it's one of those major freeways. But we're going towards the desert. And we're driving. And this is a true story. Like, all of a sudden, about maybe 45 minutes in, I'm starting to feel uneasy. I'm like, I've seen this movie before. We're in the desert, and I'm literally plotting in my head. Okay, how do I escape? Wait till I like, literally, this is what's going on in my head. So the moment I'm about to spring into action, we pull to this middle school. And he's taking me to a middle school conference. And I'm like, whew, So he's doing his thing. He's on stage. He's the keynote speaker. And he's speaking. He's talking about education and climate and culture of the school. And I'm backstage and I'm watching him do his thing. And then he goes, hey, guys, I want to introduce you to somebody special. He's got a great story. He's going to, share it with you all. And I'm the only one in the back at this point in time. So I'm kind of looking around like, oh, man, who's this? Like, I'm looking around. I'm the only one here. So I'm checking. I'm like, oh, man, who, because he's like famous in his little circle. And so he goes, ladies and gentlemen, Dee Hankins. And like, what? And so I walk up to the stage and I'm like, yo, what's going on, man? And he literally puts the mic in my chest. He leans in and he says, you have 10 minutes. And 15 years later.
Wow. Out of the frying pan into the fryer, isn't that how it works? Right?
Straight, like, you don't know how to swim, I'm gonna throw you in and you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So it just, it just kind of, I knew, like, the moment I touched the mic and I got on that stage, I just knew, yeah, this is where I'm supposed to be.
I have a question to go back a little bit. When you were in high school, it's like, what did your high school experience look like that led you to the college, like through the college process? So Joe and I both have kids that are actually just they're just starting their junior year of high school. So we do a lot of college talk. And so I'm just curious for you, especially as a child in the foster care system, what did that look like for you?
Yeah. So that's a great question. I had no intention on going to college at all. High school started very tough for me. Middle school was, our elementary school and middle school, probably the toughest because I was moving around. I was young. My perception of the world was just like, why do I need to be here? I'm going to move 2 weeks. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so it was just bad. I had a lot of emotional issues. I had a lot of trauma that was there. And so, unchecked emotion manifests into behavior 1,000% of the time.
Yeah.
So I literally wore my heart on my sleeve and my emotions were forefront. So when I got into high school, I already had an elementary school vice principal whom I tell the story about, who sat me down one day after just a blow up in elementary school, cussed my teacher out, threw my chairs all over the place. And she never sent me home. Never. She just sat me in her office all the time. And one day I had this major blow up and she walked up to me, she looked me in the eyes and she said, I yelled at her, "Why don't you just send me home?" And she looked at me and she said, "Because you have potential." Now I'm 8, so I had no idea what the heck she was talking about. And then in middle school, I had I had a teacher that really pushed me to try to win student of the month. And I'm like, someone like me could never win student of the month. Like, that's just not going to happen. But this teacher just tried to, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. This is what you need to do. And I ended up winning student of the month. Actually, 2 teachers nominated me to be student of the month twice in one sitting. So that was pretty cool. So when I got to high school, my temperament was a little bit more, calm. I had some people behind me that kind of showed me different. My high school counselor, Donna Hunter, was a beast. Like she was not going to let me fail, period. My English teacher, Miss Juarez Medina, one day I was just having a rough day, and I'm kind of like the class clown, always talking. She always has to be like, "Mr. Hankins, please be quiet." Like, I'm that kid. And one day I was just having a rough day, man. I had a rough day with my foster parents. And I just came to school. I was kind of, downcast and just one of those hoodie up moments, like just whatever. And Miss Juarez Medina noticed that. And she waited literally till the end of the class. She taught the class like normal, ended the class, and then the bell rang, and she goes, she always called us by our last name. She goes, "Mr. Hankins, take a seat." And I'm like, come on, Miss JM. I don't want to deal with this right now, And she goes, "Sit down, please." And so she sits me down. I sit down and she says, "I don't know what's going on, but I know this is not normally you. And I don't, I can't tell you how you feel or what you're going through, but you're an amazing kid. You're an amazing student, you know?" And that stuck with me. That stuck with me. I had a coach that taught me some hard lessons. And one day I ran track and field. Track and field was like one of the saviors for just, my life in general. And one day he was the type of coach that never told us who we were running against or anything like that. Just go out, do your best. I hate losing. You both need to know that. I hate losing more than anything in the world. Like, I'm extremely competitive. So we happened to be running the 4x4. We were racing Bonita High School at the time. And at the time, their anchor, I was anchor, and this kid was anchor. He was like top 5 for the 800. So he was fast. And we had this lead, and I was going and I was giving it all I can. And this dude hawked me down and smoked me. He won. And I threw a fit, like in front of everybody, the whole stadium. Threw my baton down, didn't congratulate my teammates. I was just acting a butt. I don't know if I
acting a fool, right?
Yeah, I was acting a fool. I was just, and it was terrible. This was maybe 2 weeks before our league championship, and my coach goes, "Hey man, you embarrassed us. You can't run. I need you to show up and cheer your team on." But the way you acted and I was mad at him. Just mad at him, man. I'm talking to other coaches about him. "Oh man, that's unfair. Like, I worked my butt off for this. What is this team without me?" Ego, like all this other stuff. And one day he just had enough, and he brought me to the side. He says, "You think this is about track and field?" And that took me by surprise. So I'm like, "Yeah, this is about track and field, obviously." He goes, "No, you go out in the streets and you act like that because you don't get your way. Someone cuts you off in line, or you know, something doesn't go the way that you planned it, and you throw a fit like that. He's like, don't you know what could happen to you?
Hmm.
We
You know,
see
he's like,
more. We see more and more behaviors like that in the classroom. I'm sorry. I
no,
interrupted.
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. You're
We
on the
see
right
more
part.
and more behaviors like that in the classroom. You
Yeah.
know, I don't want to
Yeah.
say post-pandemic, but there's a lot of those behaviors of, you know, how could this, you know, this isn't happening to me and blah blah, like, but these are like that is when you were talking about that, I was like getting like legitimately choked up. I'm not kidding, because I listen to that and I think about the students that come across in my classroom and some that act that way, and I always have that conversation with them, like, you can't act like this in the real world, like what you were saying, when someone cuts you off in line, when
Yeah.
someone cuts you off in traffic, like, you cannot have those kind of reactions because you never know what kind of path that's going to put you on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he looked at me and said, you could die.
Yeah.
Especially like, and look, you were from a how do I say this? You were from a difficult place to live in. It is not like, those are not like, you were talking about South Central Los Angeles. Okay. So it is not like, it's not sunshine and rainbows in a lot of places. It is a difficult place to live. So acting like that and, you know, puff it up your chest, that could have some major repercussions in a neighborhood where
You could
people
die.
don't want to see you do that.
Yeah.
You could
I
die.
have
Yeah.
I have twin daughters. I have twins, and they're when they were born, one had a lot of developmental delays in speech, and one of them qualified for preschool disabled, but like was speech specific. And we went in and we had the conference, and she was developing. She was trying really hard, but they would play games all the time, and she was a terrible she couldn't communicate properly. So I feel like the point I'm going to make is that a lot of this does really have to do with communication. And I'll never forget her speech therapist. I said, okay, you know, she said, well, the only people who should be good at losing are losers.
Mm.
And I was like, it was one of those things where I was like, did she just say, you know, but her point was that, you know, she should want to try to compete. She should want to try to win, but we've got to get her to a place where she can communicate if she doesn't win, you know, the proper way to react when you lose or you don't get your way or something doesn't
Absolutely.
work for you. And it's still to this day. And now, you know, she's 12. She was 3. And it's so profound. And I think about that often when something doesn't go their way or doesn't go the way that they had hoped it would be. Because it is sort of one of those statements of like, did you just say that? But also, yeah, you know, who sets out in a race, in a game, in anything you're doing to lose?
Yeah.
Nobody, you know,
Nobody.
but it is that lesson of how do you react when it does not go the way that you had hoped it would?
I think
Yeah.
the losing portion is the way you react. If you react negative, you lost.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what he was trying to teach me. He's like, you didn't lose. I didn't take the time to think, okay, maybe this person pushed me so far that I ran the best time that I've ever run. I didn't take the time to think about that.
Hmm.
Right. So there's winning in losing.
Yeah.
Right. If you react correctly. And that's what he was trying to teach me. And so I say all those stories to say that I had, you know, and my social worker as well signed me up for everything. Even if I didn't ask, she would just call me and say, hey, I signed you up for this. Make sure you go, you know? So there was people behind me
Yeah.
that saw past the behavior, saw past the foster care, saw a human being and saw somebody that could be great. And they acted on it. They didn't wait. They didn't sit there and go, well, you know, somebody else would do it. They did it. And speaking of track, my coach, we had these all comers meets, and I was doing the high jump as well, and he took me to California State University Long Beach for a track and field meet. I PR'd in the high jump. I won my hurdle race, and so that kind of stuck in my mind. And one day, I'm in math class with my math teacher, Miss Dorn, and she gets this phone call. And she's on the phone. She's like, yep, okay, yep, I'll send him right up. Does he need his backpack? Okay, yeah, all right, I'll get him there. She hangs up. She goes, hey, Dee, Miss Hunter wants to see you. Now, this is my counselor. And I'm thinking, I literally did nothing today. Like I was good today. Today was a good day. So as I'm walking to her office, I'm thinking, dude, what the heck did I do? You know? So I get to her office. She's on the phone. So I knock and she looks at me and she goes, and she's talking snap. And she goes, hold on 1 second. And she puts the phone like this, you know, she looks at me, she says, hey, you're going to college. And she's like, and I'm like, you know, I'm sitting at the door. I'm just waiting for her to invite me in. And I'm like, okay. So I don't see her inviting me in. So I start walking in and she goes, no, I'm busy. And sends me back to class. No, I'm busy. And I'm like, what the heck? Basically, what she was telling me was, dude, you're going to college and I'm not taking no for an answer. Like you're going to do everything you can and I'm going to do everything I can and you're going. Like there's no, well, I don't know, maybe I'm going to take it. No, you're going to go to college. Yeah. And a combination of all of those people, there was a foster youth sponsorship program called United Friends of the Children in Los Angeles that my social worker, Cassandra McKinley, signed me up for. And they gave me a scholarship to go to college. And so all paths led to college. So when I speak and I tell people, you know, be resilient, you can do this. Like a part of that is having people behind your back that just won't let you fail. You know, that like I could not fail. And if I did, then it was all on me. You know, and so that's what got me to college. I didn't even want to go to college. College was not in my future. I didn't think I could make it to college or anything like that. But all of those events since elementary school and all of those people in my life was just like, dude, this is attainable for you. Not only is it attainable, it's easy. Like, you know, that may, if you're listening to this, that may be like, oh, you know, easy for you to say. No. College is easy to get into. It's easy to do if you want to do it, you know? And so I went to Long Beach State, graduated in 4 years, graduated my bachelor's degree in criminal justice. So I didn't start speaking until after college. Now I hopped on panels for foster youth and things like that. So I had this idea that I love to speak, but I didn't think it could be a profession until my dad was just like, yo, you can do this.
Was there an element of like, you know, when you were on the process of going to college or when you got there that you're like, hey, you know what? I really like, yeah, you want to do that for yourself, but was there some kind of motivation for you to look at, you know what? I don't want to let those people down that were believing in me, pushing me, giving me a kick in the pants to make sure that I was doing what I was supposed to. I want to make sure that I make the most of this opportunity because those people believed in me.
1,000%.
Yeah.
1,000%. Like we have to, and I tell students this as well, because we don't see this. They don't see it from their lens, their standpoint, because there's so many sacrifices that are made by adults, by parents in particular, you know, like kids that are failing. I speak to, you know, kids that are underperforming in school. And I'm like, dude, it's like the clip I said, you got everything, man. You're not coming to school naked. You got clothes. You're literally disrespecting you're disrespecting your parents on the cell phone that they bought. Like, you know what I'm saying? Your mom or dad have to go to work. They wake up every day, they go to work, they handle business, the roof over their, like things that you don't even think about because it's so common for you. Right? The food on the table, electricity for you to play your games, like all this other stuff, they have to work for. Like, you don't know their struggles. You don't know if their boss hates them or they hate their job or they're just, but some parents out there make miracles happen on Christmas, you know, miracles, right? Like they have these dinners and things like that. And you don't know that they're broke. They're in shambles. They're crying themselves to sleep at night. And I'm like, they drop you off at school expecting you to meet them halfway, and you can't even do that.
Yeah.
You can't even. So here they are struggling for you, and you'll never know. And you can't dress for PE? That's selfish. That's selfish. I do this activity where I talk about what does it mean to be a friend. Everybody wants to be a good friend. They never want to be deemed as bad friends. So I do this activity and I say, hey, if I pick a student, I say, hey, if you and I were friends, right? We're homies. And I come to school and I'm like, oh, dude, I forgot my wallet. And you're like, oh, don't worry about it, dude. I got you. I was like, does that make you a good friend? They're like, yo, absolutely. What if I'm like, dude, man, I'm having a bad day, man. They're just like, you know what? You want to talk about it? Does that make you a good friend? They're like, yeah, absolutely. That's a good friend. I say, all right, let's reverse it. Let's say you come to school, you're hanging out with me. You're like, oh, D, I forgot my wallet. And I'm just like, damn, sucks for you. I'm like, you come to school, you're having a bad day. And you're like, hey man, dude, I'm just having a rough day. I'm just like, oh man, you know what? I ain't really got time to talk to you right now. I said, who's the better friend? They go, well, obviously the person that's, giving up, like give the wallet and things like that. And I say, well, now let's put it in real life. Your parents do that for you. Oh, you don't have any money? Here you go. Oh, you need this? Here you go. Oh, you need to buy this? Oh, you want to go to sports? Here you go. Pay for this, pay for that. Gymnastics, this and that, football, practice, take you to football. I got to leave work early. Go do this. And I was like, but then when they need something, like for you to pass high school, for you to graduate, bro, that's it. Dress for PE. You want to fight kids. You sit here and say, oh, I love my mom. My mom works hard for me. I love my mom. But yet you're fighting in school. She has to leave work early to come get you. Like, you're not doing her any favors. And they sit there and like the light starts to go off and goes, wow, I've been treating my parents foul.
Yeah.
And vice versa. Like that clip that I said, you have parents out there that feel like my job is to house my kids. And that's as far as it goes. The school is responsible for the rest. And I'm against that 100%. Mm-hmm. My kids do not have to go to school for them to be good people. That comes from me. If my kid never stepped foot on a high school, middle school, elementary school campus, they could still do great in this world if they are taught from great parents. Right? And so we have this war against education where teachers are now therapists, behavioral therapists, they're disciplined or don't discipline my kid. I'm not going to discipline my kid. You can't discipline my kid. But then when my kid acts up and gets arrested, well, why didn't you do anything about it? And I'm like, dude, as parents, like, we got to understand that's unfair. They're only in school for a little bit. They're going to be in life, in the world, for the rest of their life. And if you sit there and go, well, I'm just going to have the school take care of them, take care of their needs, like emotional needs, food and all that. Like I have a good friend named DJ who's teaching me about the hierarchy of needs. Right. And parent, I put a roof over your head. I put food in. That's literally the bottom rung. That's like the bare necessities. There's other steps to that we as parents need to fulfill in our child, because that's our kid. We brought them into the world. And like I said in that clip, or in another clip to supplement that, is they're going to school. Right? They're not returning to school. They're going to school. Like where you're leaving home to go to another place. My job is to equip you to go to that place. You don't send a kid to the airport without a passport or a boarding pass or anything like that, right? If I'm sending you to the airport, it is my job to make sure you have what you need to get to where you want to go. That's a parent's job. I can't blame the airport for not, you didn't pack their suitcase for them. Lady, my job is to get them to the destination. We provide the transportation to get them from point A to point B. Your job is to make sure that when they get to point B, they have everything that they need to survive over there.
Yeah. Do you have any kind of theory as to why there's been such a shift, or
You know what? I do think, the pandemic played a role. I spent a lot of time on personal development, and there's obviously our society. Let's just talk about, the US. The US is multifaceted. There's a lot of greed. There's a lot of, parents are forced to work. It's hard to afford certain, places. I live in California, man. Dude, you got to work.
And
Both you guys have
we're
to.
we're in New Jersey, so we're
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's the most densely populated state in the nation and one of the most expensive places to live in the United States, property
you
value
know
wise.
that
So
there is a stress to life,
Mhm.
right? I get that. I understand that. Should the owner of Chase make $500,000 a year and give his employees $8 an hour to live in the same city that he lives in? No, that's unfair, right? I can't control that though, right? However, there is a personal responsibility that we have to take as parents as well to make sure that one, we're healthy, both spiritually, mentally, and physically. Number one. Okay. Two, we have to take care of ourselves financially, right? That means that sometimes we're going to have to sacrifice some things, right? There's in the United States, 70% of us are less than $1,000 in their bank account. We're living paycheck to paycheck. We got $1 trillion in credit card debts. That's a me thing. Now, if I'm drowning in debt and I can't pay this, I can't do that, I can't, so on and so forth, that's going to put stress on my kid. That's going to stop me from sitting down with my kids at times, right? If I'm working 3 jobs and I come home and my kid's like, hey, mom, I got this math homework to do. I've been there before where I'm just like, dude, you're on your own because I'm exhausted. I cannot get, I'm giving from, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
And Americans right now, we have a lot of empty cups, right? However, we have this Superman complex in the society. So we're waiting for the next president to come and pay off our student loans. We're waiting for the next person to come, the next government thing to come to give me a stipend, to give me more money, to give me this. Like the way I see it is this: once you start saying, okay, I'm going to handle my stuff, things change, right? I have 3 kids. And I knew I was broke when I had these kids. You know what I'm saying? I know kids are expensive, but I knew I was broke. I knew I was not in a financial place that I could give my children the best life, right? And so that puts me behind a few steps. I can't blame my children and I can't blame the school for me having kids when, I mean, I can't really say there's a formula when to have children, right? You should have children. Children are blessed. They bring life to your bones. It's just hard to do that when I'm struggling over here.
mhm.
So I think it's unfair for me to say, okay, financially, spiritually, mentally, and physically, I'm unhealthy, right? I'm going to have kids anyway, and then I'm going to blame the school for me not being able to sit down with them and do, because I got to work 2 jobs. Because, a lot of opponents to that clip was, well, you must not have any kids. You must not know what it's like to work 2 jobs and to do all this and all that. And it's just like, dude, my kids, they didn't act, they can't choose their parents. I brought them here. That is my responsibility to take care of them. It's also my responsibility to look for help when I need it. Because a lot of people are saying that. Well, a lot of parents don't know where to go. That's not on the school. I've been doing this long enough to know that schools send emails, text messages, phone calls. You can join groups to get all the notifications that you need to help your kid go. I've seen parents block the number that the text, they block it. Oh, it's too much. Unsubscribe from these notifications, yada, yada. And then it's senior year and they're like, why is my kid not graduating? Nobody told me this and that. And the school's like, dude, we've probably sent you 1,000 messages.
Mm-hmm.
And even before then, how are you not getting their grade report?
Yeah.
This and that. So there's a responsibility that we have as parents. If you send them to school, like I'm on my teacher's butt. My son's like, if she says she had to be like, hey guys, at this point in time, I'm not available. Because I'm the one that's just like, yo, we don't know. We don't understand this homework. I'm going to call you at 9 o'clock if you say call me anytime. Right. Because that's me holding you responsible for your job, but me making sure that I'm doing what I need to do so we understand we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
And parents out there should understand that, look, if I am best friends with my son's school, he will do better instead of me being an enemy towards them. If I can get my son, my school, and myself on the same page, that kid will succeed in school. I guarantee it. Because you're going to have all the knowledge you need. Now, the school does have a role as well. You also, as educators, have a job, right? And the same thing that goes with saying, with the whole parents that are struggling, drowning in debt, like, having all the things. Teachers are the same way. They're human beings. I know teachers that are drowning in debt. I know teachers that are unhealthy physically, mentally, spiritually. Do you think they treat all their students the same way? No. I was talking to a group of Head Start yesterday, and I told them the same thing. There are people that get to go to work. There are people that have to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
People that have to go to work and the people that get to go to work treat their kids differently. They treat their students differently. They treat the parents differently. If I'm a teacher and I'm not taking care of myself and I'm stressed out at life, because life happens, my saying is life throws curveballs, and your kid's acting up, even if it's slight, maybe you got the class clown that's cracking jokes and on a normal day, you let it slide. But on this day, you're so fed up with life and emotionally, you're drained. He says something and you flip out on him. We see teachers doing this too. Teachers hitting kids, students hitting teachers, parents attacking teachers, teachers attacking parents. So we all have to collectively step back and go, okay, we can blame all this other stuff, government policies, legislation. Dude, I've been to the Capitol and I've seen people make policy for school that have never taught a day in their life. And I sit there and go, like, how did you come up with this? like people that are listening to you have to understand that, yes. But there's you can only blame the government so much, right? So most parents don't understand what happens behind the scenes with teachers. They think that you guys get the proper training, they come up with these new policies, and then everybody's on board, the teachers understand, admin understands, and everybody's good to go. And I'm like, dude, that's not the case. Sometimes there's like, hey, we got this new policy, deal with it, figure it out.
Yeah.
The teachers come to school the first day of school, and they're just as confused as everybody else. And I'm like, so there's components to it. And that's why I say the least you can do as a parent is teach your kids proper manners. That's the least you can do. I have a friend who's a school counselor, and she says, my parents have a third grade education. They didn't speak English. They didn't know how to help me with my math homework or anything like that, or any homework that I brought home. But she said, what they did teach me was to listen to my teacher, was to behave and ask questions. She now has her master's degree and she's a school counselor. So the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
So parents that come after me and go, it's the school's fault. I'm like, no. One, because I'm in it. 15 years of research. right? So, this is the United States and you have the right to be wrong. Okay, boom. That's what he says. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. You can argue all you want, but at the end of the day, you guys are educators. You see it. The students who are well behaved, I don't want to even say well behaved, but the students that come in, that listen and let teachers be teachers, do better in school.
Yeah.
That's just, you can argue all you want, but that's just the facts. Now, are there students like me who didn't have parents, who grew up, like elementary school was rough for me? At that point, is it on the educator, like my vice principal in elementary school, that was just like, dude, this kid has no parents. He's moving from home to home. Of course he's going to act up. Why would I send him home? That's the easy way.
Yeah.
Let's show him that we care. Now, do I want him cussing and flipping chairs in my classroom? No, because that's not the proper way to act. But sending him home is not going to do him any good.
Yeah.
Right? Let's get him the help that he needs. Let's ask the questions that he needs. That is the school's responsibility. Okay? At that point, when you're dealing with no parents, and there are kids like that in school that are dealing with foster care that have these emotional challenges. This is why we have school counselors and therapists and so on and so forth. But to sit here and blame you for the things that I'm doing as a parent is wrong.
What does it look like for you? Like when you go in and do a speaking engagement at a school, is it primarily in front of students, or is it teachers, or is it both? Or is it like, what does that look like for you?
It's both. So in the beginning, I was more doing students and things like that, but they can only do so much. Like in the pie of teacher, parent, student, they probably have the smallest slice.
Yeah.
Because they're developing, right? You go to school to develop. So it's the adults that are primarily involved. So I have a student development program called the At Best program, and it works with underperforming students. And I talk to the students, I talk to the teachers, and I talk to the parents. So I do like I believe in the three-legged approach to things. I need you as a teacher. As a parent, like I need my teachers, right? And then my students need their teachers, and then my son needs me and his mom. So it's like it's always going to be that way. And so that's how I approach a student development program. On a regular day, it really just depends, right? Admin will know, hey man, we got teachers that really don't get it. Can you come in and speak to our staff? Sure. Oh man, we got students that are really struggling, and COVID did a number for sure. I agree with that. And it's going to take maybe 2 or 3 more years to kind of get back to a sense of normalcy, probably, before that pendulum swings back.
I think I'm in that boat too. I think you're looking 2 or 3 years for there to be some kind of shift.
Yeah. I think COVID was I've said this before, but I think COVID was a good thing to blame everything on. No. There were a lot of problems before that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how long? These kids weren't even born yet. How long are we going to blame COVID?
What reference did you make, Jamie? In a previous episode, you said something like, I'm still blaming my children who are 13 on those extra 10 pounds I can't lose. Like, just.
Hey.
For this case, because it took a hit socially.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right. Like right now in schools, you're coming across a social problem.
They're stunted. Yeah.
Yeah. Socially, I can't communicate. So parents as well.
Yes.
Right. We're so frustrated. So there's a social aspect that has been hurt. So kids don't communicate. They're rude to each other. They're mean to each other. They don't do it. That's all they know.
Yeah.
Right. And so, COVID really, man, it's going to take a while to get back there. But that's why I said you have to look for the help that you need. I have this acronym that I use called Be Cool, right? KUW, which is knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. You gotta, the more you know about something, the more you can understand it. The better you understand it, now you can apply wisdom to it. And we need our daily lives to revolve around that aspect of being cool, like trying to gain knowledge. Ask questions. Go to your student. Like, how many parents complain about education and never show up to parent nights? They never show up to, back to school night. They never show up to anything that the school's doing. And then
And
they
the
want
ones
to
and the
complain.
ones that do show up are the ones that
Your
don't
kids are good.
that they don't need to be there. Do you know what I mean? Like of course they want to be there, but like they don't need to
Yeah.
be there because their kids are already doing what they're
Dude,
supposed
it's
to.
crazy, man. Me and my friend DJ Johnson, who's also a speaker, we do these parent nights, resilient kids, better parents. And the parents that show up, dude, your kid is fantastic. Your kid's gonna do amazing in life because he's doing amazing in school. And the ones that are complaining about school don't show up. It's free. We have food, this and that. And they blame, oh, well, and it's just like the more excuses you make, the more circles you run around in your life. That's how you know. I can walk into a school and as soon as I hit the front office, I can tell, is this school on it or not? Because if the front office is discombobulated, I know the rest of the school is discombobulated.
Yeah.
I went to a middle school, and I'm the speaker, and I'm in the front office, and everybody's just kind of running around, blah blah blah, this and that. This is regular. This is a Tuesday. Everybody's running around, and nobody's communicating. And the clerk looks at me and goes, "Oh, I'll be right with you, sir." So I'm waiting there like 10 minutes. They're on the, she's on the phone. They're doing all this stuff. And I hear the principal in her office on her radio go, "Hey, like, is the speaker here? Like, we're looking for the speaker. Like, we're on." He's like, "On in 5 minutes." I've been at this point in time, I've been there for 15 minutes, right? So she has no idea who I am. So she's walking out and she's on the radio, like, "Is a speaker here? Is this and that?" And I'm just kind of chilling. I'm just there because the lady told me to hold on, and I'm just waiting there. And secretary's just like, "Hold on, sir. We're scrambling. I'm so sorry. We'll be right with you." This and that. And so finally, the person that booked me, the activities director who booked me, like, came in and goes, "Dee, we've been looking for you." And I'm just like, "I've been here." And then the secretary looks at me and goes, "Oh my gosh, you're the speaker." And I'm like, "Yeah." And it's like she comes in and the principal's like, "Oh, you're the speaker," and this and that. I'm just like, "Dude, we're off." So I've been here before. So we get to the auditorium and the teachers are yelling at the kids, "Go sit down, everybody sit down, be quiet, get your phones off, this and that." So it is what it is, but I already know what's coming. So I do my presentation. You have kids that are crying, bawling, because emotionally I've touched them, right? Emotionally I've gotten to them, which is great for educators. Like, emotionally, you want them to kind of be vulnerable. So now this is a teaching moment. How did you feel about that? What does that make you think? What did you think about his story? What does that make you think about your story? Because, there's that saying that, oh, if you touch a kid's heart, they'll listen to you. That's true.
That is true.
Right? It's
Oh,
very
yes.
true.
Yeah.
So again, I end. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to be with you. Kids want to come up and be like, "Dude, you changed my life. Thank you so much. I want to tell you a little bit about my story." The moment I finish, they're like, "Go to class or you're going to be tardy." And I'm like, what a dropped ball. What a drop ball. Like, you took a moment and where you could have broke down some walls and you made it harder.
Yeah.
You totally took them out of their whatever, yelling at them. "Get to class, everybody get to class. Hurry up, you're going to be tardy, you're going to be tardy." Kids crying because emotionally you just brought them in. And I hate using the word hate, but I hate going to those schools that are so worried about tardy and this and that. But they're the ones that brought me, "Oh, our kids are having problems, like, emotionally and socially. They're fighting, they're yelling at each other, this and that." And I'm like, well, now I know why. We're just reiterating the behavior.
Yeah.
Or that's not the right word I
Yeah.
want to use, but
Yeah.
and it's
No,
just like, you know what I mean?
Reinforcing, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's been the last few years for me. We had been identified by the state. So we had received a ton of funding to do some different things to try to reach the kids in different ways. And I had always been particularly interested in parental involvement and getting parents to come in, and had run like a book club, like a family book club for, gosh, now it's over 20 years. And really looking at like the way that the kids are interacting with the adults in their lives. But I will say what is kind of tricky and delicate with teachers is telling them that maybe they should approach the way that they speak to the kids in a bit of a different way. That is a tough journey because people sometimes are really genuinely set on, this is how I do it, this is how I say it. And it's like you can catch more flies with honey, or that saying. And so I've made it a little bit of a mission of mine to really genuinely try to be an example for the kids of not everybody, not everyone's going to meet you. If you're here, I'm going to be here, because I'm not, if I meet you here, it's not going to go well.
And at the same time with, listening to you earlier, Dee, talk about how, like, when you talk to a student about like, hey, you're not meeting your parents halfway. You're not, that's not meeting them where they are. That's really putting it on them to say, like, look, you need to do some searching on the inside to see, like, you're not being a good friend, quote unquote, to use your words, if you will, to, when you're dealing with your parents, like they're the ones that are putting forth that sacrifice. And that's not that, like, I think one of the things that really attracts me to you and your content is how, like, when you speak it and it comes from that place, it's authentic. It's not somebody blowing smoke at you. It's somebody who's like, you have lived this stuff, man. Like, so like when you tell a student, like, you can overcome this, you go back to I see you got, not to plug the merch, but I see the resilience shirt on, that's a huge, like, a lot of kids, like, the immediate give up, the moment that they see a kind of obstacle that's put in front of them, And I think when it comes from you and listening to your content, yes, 100%. But you've also lived and you have experiences that kind of lend that to being very authentic in what you do.
Now, but everybody is.
I think everybody. I was going to say, but I think everybody does, right? We all have these different experiences. It's okay to say, I wasn't my best self today. It's okay to say, like, I shouldn't have done that or said that or approached it that way. And so a lot of the things that you've said today are just extremely profound. And I wish that we could keep talking to you for another hour.
Yes.
It just goes back to self. At the end of the day, you have to check yourself. And again, you bring up a good point. And to be transparent, my son, he's 9, just turned 9. He's very emotionally in tune with himself. Like, Dad, I need a break. Can I have a hug? Things like that. I didn't grow up like that. I grew up with what are you crying for?
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you a reason to cry, or, whatever the case may be.
Can I ask how old you are, if you don't mind me asking?
Yes.
Oh, listen, you do not, Jamie.
All right, wait, I'm going to guess.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess 34.
Okay.
Okay. So I once worked at an amusement park guessing people's ages, Jamie. You know the story. I'm not telling you. I'm so bad at this. I'm going to say 41.
37.
37. Okay.
37.
So
I was basing it on you saying you've been speaking for about 15 years, and
I was trying to do the same thing, and then I did math in my head, and that just didn't go. It just never goes well.
37, man.
Yeah.
But actually, that's a good point. So here you have at this moment of this event that happened with me and him, I was about 35 years old, and we're in the living room and we're just practicing karate. Practicing karate. He's punching the bag. I'm like, well, yeah, you're doing, do it like this and this and that. And all of a sudden he just stops and he starts crying. I'm like, dude, what are you crying for, bro? Like, we're just practicing. You do this all the time. We're just practicing karate, And then he takes his gloves off and he goes, are you even proud of me? Am I doing it right? Can I just have a hug sometimes? And I was dumbfounded, man, because I'm like, dude, he's willing to do what I'm asking him to do. He just wants to know, am I doing it correctly? Can you tell me good job? Like, can I have a hug sometime? Good job, buddy. Like, you're doing well. And so, like, man, that it got to me. It really got to me because just like, you know what? Just because I grew up with don't cry, be a man, suck it up, yada, yada, doesn't mean that I can't be better. That's not right. The way I grew up, the way that people talk to me and things like that, it's not right. And so it goes back to be cool, knowledge, understanding, wisdom. Science will say it's not okay to not cry. That's actually detrimental to your health.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so here I am telling him, suck it up, to this and that, but also be healthy, guys. Take care of your mental health and this, but don't cry. Be a man. And it's just like that. That's contradictory, you know? And then you have parents out there that treat their kids that way, send them to school, something emotional happens. And as a teacher, maybe I respond with empathy. Maybe I respond with a little sympathy, and they can't accept that because my dad told me I look weak when I cry. You know, so now your kid is refusing the help that they need because I'm going to disappoint my dad because my dad told me to be a man and don't cry and this and that.
Yeah.
And now as a parent, I'm like, well, my kid has all these developmental issues. Why didn't you do anything about it? And it's just like, and this is why I try to tell parents, it's not the school's fault. The schools are getting the already packaged product that you sent to them. You sent this kid to school this way. And now you want me to deal with this, even though it goes against, you know, the rules and the regulations. They're making the other students feel unsafe. Like, it's so, I could never be a teacher, right? And I tell people that all the time because I'm on the phone like, dude, your kid is a menace. Your kid is the problem. It's not us. It's your kid. He's fighting the kids. He's the bully. He's the this and that. And as a parent, like, I don't want my kid to be labeled as that. And I tell my kids, I used to be like grades. And I'm like, dude, like, do your best. That's all I ask for. But the one thing that I will not tolerate is if your teacher calls me and say, hey, Brooklyn was picking on some kid. Jaden was picking on some kid. You know, Charlie was picking on some kid. Now we got a problem because I didn't raise you that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can always enhance your learning. Some people have developmental issues, so it's not about grades. And people think I always talk about grades. It's not about grades. It's about habits. If you have good habits, the grades and all that, my daughter is a terrible test taker. Terrible. Right? She just has problems taking tests. She's not a good test taker. Homework, boom. Reading, boom, on it. Doing the work, on it. Socially, on it. But test taking, she's terrible. And sometimes tests are a major part of grades. I can't look at her and chastise her because she doesn't take good tests and blame it on grades. Now, if she's not doing good in tests and she's causing drama at school and she's talking about girls, you know, that don't have better clothes than her and she's a menace, that's on me. You know what I'm saying? That's on me. And for some reason, parents just go, no, my kid's behavior is the school's fault. And that's false.
Yeah.
Well, look, Dee, we really, really appreciate you and your perspective. And again, I'm going to say it again. If you stuck with us through our interview today, if you are not following Dee Hankins on all of the socials, you should be, because he has some great content and perspective about, you know, the not just the state of education, but about, you know, society in general. I just think, and that's me. I'm not blowing smoke at you either. I really think you're a very authentic and original person, and we need more voices like you out there that can kind of right the ship a little bit. So I want to thank you very much for joining us today. It was a long time coming, I know, but it was great having you for sure. And as always, Jamie, I appreciate you. This is like our thing. This is what we do.
Joe, Dee, I appreciate both of you. We appreciate you so much for sitting in with us. I could do this again for sure. I had more questions and not enough time. That's how it goes. But yes. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Everyone, we'll see you next time on the Balancing Act podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate you guys.
Balancing Act podcast will now be available weekly. Check out Apple Podcasts or Spotify and give us a follow. We appreciate you.